This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey, Aaron, and I think back on 2024 for our Wild Prognostications year in review.
Woo!
1-800-HAMSTER-HAMS. Come get your hams today. This is what a Joey sounds like.
This is what an Aaron sounds like as a Pac-Man.
And this is what an executive producer and ghost of the stage, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess.
Ghost of the stage?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I
was trying to think that, she haunts the backstage of the theater. But, we got to give some breaks here on December 13th, the day after a holiday party.
I mean,
your boy is something.
Both Joseph and Jess shook their shenanigans last night and had a great time at the New York office holiday party. We have the LA office holiday party this evening. So I'll be catching up with them on the couch tomorrow. Basically.
I'm a proponent of the Friday company holiday party. I understand why that is not when they happen, but
yes.
I just feel like it's better for everybody if we just all shake hands, look each other in the eye and say, yes, we'll give up a Friday evening because then we don't have to work the next day. Because we're going to act the same way.
Or will we? But
Jessica,
Jess, should we just jump right in? Yeah, we skip all of our typical shenanigans. Yeah, more shenanigans. Yeah,
ghost jumping. A classic.
Ghost jumping.
Classic
ghost
activity.
Jumping.
Wonderful. We are here today for a very special tradition in nonsense lore. We are here for Wild Prognostications 2024 year in review. If you recall, at the beginning of this year, we took wild guesses, completely baseless or maybe somewhat baseful, but who's to say, on what was to come in the year. And today we are going to take a look back at what we prognosticated and how we think that turned out, what questions or thoughts prompted as a result of this reflection. And we're just going to have a noodle and think. And then in the new year, we will come up with new prognogs for another time. Given that, maybe I will do a quick recap of our nogs, and then we will begin.
Mm-hmm.
In no particular order, some buzzwords from our prognostications for 2024. An AI novel script, PR kerfuffle. I definitely said that in the wrong order. A medley of wild things that could be doing something in some kind of direction. AI hardware catching, energy optimism catching, Jello, algae, wide shoes.
I love these.
Wide shoes.
So allow us to double click into these search terms. Joey, what happened in 2024? How did your prognostications fare?
I think, the thing about the prognogs that we found in the past, of course, there are ones that we are total misses, right? Complete, just well, no, definitively that is never going to happen. And how did I even land there last year? And then there are the other ones that you're catching an inkling of something and you can see it coming, but a year is, a relatively short amount of time and it's on its way. I think probably for both of mine, which were AI transitioning into hardware, that there would be AI hardware products that would be coming out into the market, and energy optimism. I think both of those, there are actually some pretty strong signals, and I'll list a few, and you guys tell me whether you think they qualify. I think the evidence is maybe a hair thinner on the AI hardware, but there are specific things. I think I actually even heard an ad on a podcast this morning for Microsoft's Copilot Plus designation for PCs. So it's not, I think they may be producing, I'm not 100% sure. It's a little bit confusing, I will admit, but they're producing computers, but giving a designation. So like Dell can produce a Copilot Plus computer that gets that designation. And it is like hardware that is designed somewhat differently to be able to work more collaboratively with AI products like Microsoft's Copilot and GitHub, or the integration of agents into the software. And so for me, this feels like it is starting to happen. They announced it May 20th. The products are on sale. You couldn't go buy a Copilot Plus rated or designated computer today. But I think I was anticipating more than that. And I think a lot of the hardware that came out, whether it was that brooch, the humane pin, or that rabbit device that had come out, like, did not land well. The user experience wasn't great. There's like versions of things where, all of, Anthropic or ChatGPT have, integrated voice, and you can speak through your phone to an AI agent, but that doesn't feel like it's quite what the intention was. So I'm not sure. I mean, maybe on that one, what do you guys think? It's a schmedium. It's trajectory, but not landed, I don't think.
I feel like it's a schmedium, and I feel like part of it is because the hardware that did launch this year were such spectacular failures. Like,
yes,
the rabbit was so derided. We have to put the Marcus Brownlee review in there. It is one of the most brutal takedowns that I've ever seen on like a piece of AI, on specifically the AI generation, or excuse me, the AI aspect of it. Like, the idea that that's the brain behind it, and that's of course going to eliminate the need to have hardware. It's this weird, your favorite, it's a weird Ouroboros of both the failure of trying to center AI while also making hardware that's supposed to eliminate hardware. And I think that that's what makes it a strong schmedium, because I think that that's like the weird thing that the hardware that had the most attention this year was getting.
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder if there's just like an interesting, like just on the subject of people's expectations versus reality about what would happen with AI in general this year, is that like, I wonder if something happened where the introduction to the broader public of AI with software that is readily usable and accessible, like that sort of drop may have made people feel like, wow, we're going to have exponential pacing progress immediately thereafter, when actually, like, to get to that point has been such a long time coming, that I feel like in a general sense around AI, people have been surprised both at its capabilities and in terms of incremental progress, how still sort of steadily paced that has been, right?
Mm-hmm. As soon as you say that, Jess, it makes me revise my response, Joey, to a schmedium high. I would say I think that's rounded up, because
an extra large schmedium.
An extra large schmedium. I think that's up there.
Side of fries?
Because I do think that even nested within this, there's an assumption of wide-scale adoption. Like, if you're talking about AI hardware, you're talking about lots of people. There's a presumption that there's enough adoption that companies are investing in something that people are going to spend more to buy and that costs a lot more to produce than necessarily dropping a piece of software and supporting that. And so I do think with all the software that was launched this year, all the efforts that were put out there, I should say, by the big guys, that rounds up that medium to a high.
Yeah, I mean, like when you start to get specific into things like I think Aaron, you have experienced like the Waymo ride of like being in a self-driving car. Like there are sort of pockets where advances in AI are advancing things that is, the future is not evenly distributed. Like if you are in a place where you're getting, in Arizona or parts of California, you might get to feel that a little bit more, but it's not everywhere. The other one I'll go into is just that energy optimism. This is a weird one because it is integrated to AI in ways that I was not thinking about in any way, shape, or form when I was putting these two things forward. The increase in AI has created a massive increase in energy demand. And in the short term this year, what that has meant is if you are in an area that has data centers, your electrical bill has gone up. And not a little bit, probably, like as much as like 20% year over year.
Wow.
And in some places that is 2 years in a row, 20% year over year, maybe even goes higher. What that has also meant is that large companies that have data centers or are using AI are now starting to invest really heavily, and has come out a lot this year in new forms of energy production. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta have all made like some pretty sizable bets in nuclear, for example, turning back on, I believe it was Microsoft that is working to turn back on the 3 Mile Island reactor to like refit it so that it can increase power. Some are working on micronuclear reactors to try and get those developed to increase energy production. And they are also investing heavily as a result in the short term in producing solar arrays and things like that, as the cost of solar has plummeted. They're also doing there's an article that came out a week or two ago, I believe, where Amazon worked with an AI-based company to produce this carbon filter that will recapture carbon as part of the cooling process of its data centers, which increases the cost by 10% of the data centers, but is like radically cheaper than carbon offset costs. So there's like all these sort of things happening as this like massive uptick in energy demand has happened as a result of AI. So I don't know what I kind of can't say necessarily that it feels like optimism in the conversation, but if you sort of step back a little bit, maybe it can generate this optimistic feeling because more people are participating and have a vested interest in an energy transition.
I'd argue lateral nog, energy blank, yes. Optimism is less the thing than like need to innovate or use or come up with other solutions. Like there's definitely it's hot. Is it optimistic? That is maybe different.
It is interesting too to like it's almost like energy ambivalence maybe even might be the sentiment.
Well, we'll take what we can get.
but what's interesting is that I think like what's completely unignorable is energy action. Yeah. Like there is action and new steps taken and new big swings that are being taken in regards to energy. That optimism, I also think that there is so much baggage over the past handful of years when it comes to green energy, when it comes to energy innovation, period, let alone green innovation, that like, I don't know. That one feels like a soft medium only because of the optimism part. But the energy action, is like undeniable because it's like a very practical, necessary step that has been leaned into super hard.
Yeah, in order to feel optimistic, you have to step back from like the realities of today, which feel kind of like wobbly and like, oh, increased demand, like where is it coming? It's having potentially a negative impact today, but like that those actions that you're talking about, like at some point may produce optimism because like, a new thing happened.
Planting the seeds of energy optimism.
Yeah.
Yes.
We will feel optimistic in 3 years. Like,
Please.
You don't feel it now, but maybe
Just you wait. You're gonna feel so optimistic.
I like this. I like that a lot. Very cool. Very cool.
Aaron?
I guess so. I need to hop in, right? I got to do a couple.
You do. We need your nogs. How'd they do?
Nogs. So y'all can check me, boo, if you agree. I feel very good about my nogaliciousness, and it's because I did a little bit of shotgun blast last year, as you touched on. So the first of my nogs, I'll say like it's a little bit of let me just explain it. So the thought was that there would be some sort of a large-scale kerfuffle from a movie studio or a publisher, book publisher, or a music publisher around, this great work that everybody loves was actually generated by AI. Essentially the Milli Vanilli-ing in a computer form. That's basically what I was going after.
For people of a certain age.
For people of a certain age.
Can you please give
specifically
what is the
Aaron
one
and
sentence,
I's age.
Yeah.
What is the one sentence summary that explains that reference?
Milli Vanilli was a German pop duo that did not record their own songs, and it was revealed in a live performance when the CD skipped. And it went out on the news airwaves in the 80s.
What is this, like the Lizzie McGuire movie? Sing to me, Paula.
Or, my favorite, again, dated reference, but speaking of Lizzie McGuire, who was it on SNL that did the awkward dance? Oh my God, she was singing and then her backing track got stuck too. On a Tuesday, I was waiting. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. All right, I'm looking this up. I'm not. Someone's screaming at the car, and they are driving into a berm, saying, "Oh my God, why don't you know this?" Ashley Simpson.
Oh, of course.
I'm sorry to everyone who is screaming it, and we're like, Jesus, Aaron. So anyway, that's the Milli Vanilli. That's the Ashley Simpson of it all. I give you 2 words: Scarlett Johansson. This happened in May 2024 that OpenAI had created a new voice for their system, their text to voice AI assistant, and it sounded a lot like Scarlett Johansson. And it turned out that they kind of based the voice on Scarlett Johansson, so Scarlett Johansson sued him. So it's not, obviously it's not necessarily the novel, the performance, the whatever. So the medium is not quite right, but like that, my friends, was a kerfuffle.
I think you
what was the second one?
Aaron.
The Coca-Cola ad.
Oh yeah, of course. Open happiness. Like, what the hell? There are thoughts that I have on certain things of this moment. Jaguar being one of them. I'm not going there. That Coke ad, you have opened up a mini Pandora's box for me. Trash AI commercial that is intended to recreate that is intended to recreate an ad from the 90s that was all about how Coke was the real thing and openly did it with AI technology, which is so surreal and makes everybody's face do that weird gloopy AI thing. Yes, you're right. Many kerfuffles.
Yeah, independent of how you feel about it, was a whole ass kerfuffle.
It's also interesting the way the kerfuffles unraveled, where instead of people being instead of people realizing that wool was pulled over their eyes or something, instead it was more like, no,
Yep. Yes.
No, you're
Yeah.
not pulling a fast one on me, right? And there were cultural moments about it, but it wasn't in grief. It was like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a rebellion against the uncanny valley. It's like, no, that's not just weird and spooky and I don't like it. It's like, just nah, y'all. No, we're not doing that.
Exactly.
And I think even to like fits with this, Aaron, of you being more right, like part of the PR kerfuffle is like the coinage, which may have come a little bit prior to this year, but became popularized fully this year as AI slop. Like that is a consistent term being used. And I think it fits as like a broad kerfuffle. Like what is produced is not, to call anything slop is not good.
Yeah, that is fundamentally pejorative for sure. My other nog was a basket of nogs. It was a medley of nogs, and so I will hit them very quickly, just as I did in that episode. First, interest rates stagnating or going down. Nailed it. It's pretty easy. Giant media merger or divestiture. Nailed it. Omnicom and IPG last week. Thank you. Nailed that. End of democracy. Nailed it. I'm only going to giggle because I'm still not dealing with it emotionally. I'm not doing it until January. Thanks, Kay. Bye. Backlash against EVs. I think this sits right next to the energy optimism conversation. I actually don't think there was a backlash, an at-scale true divestiture, for example, in the EV economy. There's a lot of questions about how that's going to look. California's taken moves, for example, to or signal that they might actually keep the EV credits moving forward if the federal government decides that they want to roll them back. And there's obviously been at least a decade's worth of really significant investment in a lot of the EV infrastructure, both the cars themselves, but also like charging stations and whatnot. And there's been a real big push at reshaping the brand landscape around EVs with newcomers like Rivian, quick comers and quick exiters like Fisker, and a few others as well that are just making for other options other than just Teslas. I know I'm not going there. Like I said, I'm not really going there until January. So I'm not. It's the most fucking wonderful time of the year. I'm not doing it.
The most wonderful
fucking time of the ding. So I feel like I did really well. I think I batted 275,000, whatever the sports numbers.
I think you did. I think you did.
Ball.
Maybe the best.
I feel good about
that.
Can we just acknowledge the Monte Carlo problem or the what's the TV show one where you picked
Monty Hall.
The Monty Hall problem of interest rates stagnating or going down.
right.
Two of three options.
I did. That was pretty good.
I think overall, you crushed, but that one in particular, you're like, it could be
anything. Yeah, like legitimately. I remember saying that one and being like, I have given myself a very high probability of being right on this one. So I feel good about that.
Well, we're not talking about degree of wildness at this point. We're just celebrating your success.
Which I knew I was going to do.
You wound up ultimately putting out like 5 or 6 and nailing all of them. And then
very happy about that.
Embedded in the middle was like, interest rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Good job, 2023, Aaron. Keep that brain going. But Jess, what was behind your doors number 1 and 2?
Wow. I actually had 3. I had algae, jello, and wide shoes. So let us take it one at a time. I will say, on the subject of mainstream algal advancement, we are still deeply lagging behind, which is a shame. It's a slow burn. Okay, it's just going to be one of those things. I have so much belief in the possibility of algae to change every industry.
Amen.
It's just amazing.
Amen.
But what is really exciting is at least some increased visibility, some really pioneering people out there like me see potential. And it's interesting that it relates to some of what we've already been talking about. For instance, with algae-based biofuel innovation. Like I was reading about this company called Viridose who is trying to create low carbon algal biofuels and trying basically to just like figure out how to create a new source of power with algae, which is so sick. It's like a in my mind anyway. I know nothing really of substance, but in my mind, it's like a new form of solar energy, which is crazy.
The interesting part about that would be like if it is sequestering carbon to produce carbon burning fuels, so that it's just like a loop. That would be tight.
Yeah, you gotta. There's just like I'll put some pictures in the show notes, but just imagine like vats of like vibrant green water with like cool spinny circle things. It's just, I mean, like, yeah, I'm so here for it.
It's a classic phylactery.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, in the EU's Food for Future initiative, there was a focus on integrating macroalgae into sustainable urban agriculture as a potentially nutritious and eco-friendly food source. So there's some work, at least in the EU, of trying to expand like algae for food. But generally still slow on this front. I'll wait. Don't worry. I'll wait.
On it.
Also, I'm just going to acknowledge, like, good. Speaking of AI, what a helpful, handy tool to assess how these trends went this year. Thank you, ChatGPT, for your assistance. Okay, but I will say, on my other nogs, which were less wild but more successful, I feel positively about. First of which is Jell-O, which was the idea that there would be growth in the gelatin category, and that for sure has happened.
Yes.
In the wake of Jell-O's rebrand, mid-end-ish of last year, Jell-O specifically has grown a lot and is projected to continue to grow by like 6.5% CAGR.
Kager.
Goodness me.
Great Kager there.
So there's I also think like the forms, and maybe this is a stretch, but like the forms in which gelatin took was far beyond just dessert. So gelatin in nutritional supplements like collagen, which is basically like gelatin is just a degraded form of collagen, so they're nearly identical nutritionally. So there's that. There's also like Jell-O-like things like gummies and other like Jell-O in beverage, like jellies things. Like I think there's just something about that texture that has absolutely taken the world by storm.
You are 100% right. Like the decided upon Gen Z marketable furniture aesthetic is Jell-O. Like
yes, and
everything is gelatinous and movie, and like it's very focused not on the slime aesthetic, but on a Jell-O globular.
Yes.
Thing.
Jelly flats came back this year. We're Jell-O-ing everything, not just dessert.
That's huge.
And what about Jelly Rolls Fast Ascension? Is that too far? Is that a stretch?
No. I hope you went to Pilates for that stretch, because that one full of muscle on that one.
Okay, maybe a bit too far, but I feel this is happening.
You went to Pilates for that one.
I'm just saying.
You got me.
That's solid. That's wild and nailed, without a doubt. But what about your third?
My third was the wide shoes, which has always been wishful thinking. And I will say, though, what I hadn't really appreciated is not just wide shoes market expansion from just like companies that are made for like that specifically specialize in wide shoes. I don't know that exactly we saw new entrants in that space.
Mhm.
But wide shoe acceptance in fashion has absolutely made a swing back around. Like Birkenstocks coming back, Hoka, the running shoe brand's
Mhm.
grand ascension into like everyday streetwear, which are known for having wide toe boxes. New Balance's continued and consistent popularity. So I think there's something interesting in wide shoes less being more available than being more fashion acceptable, which maybe is the beginning of this happening.
Mhm.
Yeah, one thing I would say that I think fits within this is I've seen this is very anecdotal, but I've seen many conversations this year and like pictures coming up frequently of like what does a child's foot and toe spread look like versus what happens to your foot and toe spread as a result of wearing shoes. So I feel like there is like an increase, at least cognizance of the impact of narrow shoes having on sort of like your mobility and your balance and things like that. And so I would just add that into like the sort of trajectory of people maybe reevaluating shoe width more broadly.
Right. Or like consciousness is the first step to change. Right. So
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Drops of wisdom.
boom. I'll also add just like a few last little things of things that I did not nog, but that did happen that really surprised me this year. Were one, that everyone would start birding all at once.
Mm. Oh. Oh.
That and I'm saying these because I think it's already happened, so I feel comfortable that it's not a prognostication. But that's just the first, just like everyone's birding, and like young people are interested in birding. The next is that everyone would be chugging Guinness.
God.
Is that a thing?
They love the stout. Well, yeah, it is a thing. Have you heard of splitting the G? Where you're like you take your first chug, and the ambition is that without looking, you stop chugging right when in the glass the foam is like right. It's just a fascinating in our otherwise like non-drinking moment right now. It's just such a peculiar, unexpected thing. Yeah, but like like good for the.
Got to split the
them,
G.
maybe. And then we cannot end 2024 without acknowledging women's basketball. Everyone watches women's sports.
True.
Period.
True. That shift has been really cool to watch. It's like, and as a non-sports person, as you and my fellow co-hosts and the listeners may know, the only thing that I can liken it to is like when soccer really tried to make it happen in the US, like in a very inauthentic way. It's happening, but it's because the people who love soccer are here already. They love soccer. Yeah. Whereas I feel like women's sports just started getting the investment that it deserved. And people were like, yeah, I want to see those games are in. I don't know what's going to happen. The spontaneity, the skill, like everything about it is like, oh, that's more fun. So big ups to Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. Those are the only two I know, but they're household names. They are the next generation Cheryl Swoops. Like, come on. That's Sports Illustrated for errands. That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, look at that, guys. We prognosticated and we did pretty with our wildness. Pretty well. Yeah.
I think we did a great job this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I would add this year has been wildly unpredictable. Most of the things that anyone would probably characterize 2024 with would start with unpredictable. And yet we prognosticated into a predictability that, that's lost the end of that sentence. That's all.
We did great. Congratulations on a year well prognosticated. And thank you all listeners for another awesome year, passing our 100,000th listen mark. We had some really exciting milestones. I'm proud of us.
I'm proud of us. Yay!
We did
Into 2025. Chapa! Chapa!
That's the sound of us ghost jumping into 2025.
Ghost jumping while bird watching. Can we do both at the same time? Is that can we do?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Ghost Jumping the musical.
Yes.
Ghost jumping.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by a mildly heartfelt reminder that it's the end of the year, not the end of times. Drink some water, rest up, and get ready for 2025. We're all going to be okay if we go into it together.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and amateur ornithologist, Jess Vander.
Thank you both.
We'd also like to thank sound engineer and the foot to my wear, Alex Contel.
We'd like to thank programming coordinator, programming coordinator, and eggnog-sticator, Les Jacobs.
That was good. We'd also like to thank the crew that makes this happen every week. We've got Nora Mestridge, we've got Zara Gilbert, we've got Amy Waters, we've got Christy Jensen, and ultimately, as a cohort, they are the birds to watch in 2025.
These birds. As always, thanks, Alen.
Thank you, sir.
Special thanks. Birds aren't real.
Oh my God, that
My
guy.
God. It is just. Can we ever escape? Did I ever tell you about that time back when I was in high school speech and debate league where I went up against a guy whose argument for reducing urban development was that what about the birds flying into skyscrapers? And every time I think about
I think he became president, Jess. I think he became president. I'm sorry, you said that one. That was really easy. I had to. If you don't know about Trump and windmills, then you need to look that up because that is an argument.
like I feel for birds though. Okay, please go.
Yeah.
No, yeah, birds are great. Bobo, I miss you. I have, every once in a while I've got like a product or a thing that I'm obsessed with or a game or whatever. I've got two special thanks. One is for Kizik, Kizik. I got into these shoes over the summer. They are, hands-free shoes. I thought it was the corniest, silliest proposition ever. I was like, why would I ever? I have now, throughout my family, ended up with at least 12 pairs. I'm obsessed. These things are stylish. It's shocking how easy it is they are to get on, get off. And they don't come off when you're on a roller coaster. On like an inverted coaster, they are on. Like they are on your foot. So I'm just giving them a free plug because I love these shoes. The second is my video game obsession right now, which is the Plucky Squire. I love it. I've spent the latter half of this year getting into AA games instead of AAA games because I just want to support smaller studios, and the gaming industry has been really messy this year. So I wanted to support slightly more independent groups. And what I love about the Plucky Squire is that it makes me feel like video games made me feel when I first discovered them. Like the joy, the wonder, and the surprise. The conceit is very simple. You are a character in a storybook, and you are a plucky squire. And a wizard brings in magic that starts to rewrite the storybook.
Whoa.
But the way that they play it out and where it goes from there is one of those, like, if you play it going in blind, you will just love it. It's platformy. It's definitely more of a platformer, like an action adventure platformer. Feels like Castle Crashers, if anybody remembers that one from a few years back. Like, part of the stylistic reference feels like that. But it is puzzly, it is platformy, and I love it. All I want to do every minute is just go down and find out what my squire is doing. I need to go with my friend Violet and my friend Thrash. And of course, because it's based on the storybook, the writing is really good. The writing is actually like chuckle out loud, if not laugh out loud, funny. And it's mostly written, not voice acted. So Plucky Squire, I know it's on PS5, PC. I think it might be on Xbox 360 as well.
Looks like it's on Switch as well. I was searching while you were talking about
downloading for the holidays.
Yes, yes, comfort food. Those are all my special things. That's what I got.
Well, we did it.
We did
Another
it.
year. Nogged, thanked, gratituded, platituded. We
Yeah.
did it.
Sounds like us.
Sounds like us. Bon day to you all. Bye.
Love you, mean it, bye. Bye.